Hello friends, welcome to Calvary Pentecostal Church here in Wawa. We're glad to have you with us. You might be on your cell phone or your mobile device or maybe your computer at home and taking part in our service. Well, welcome to the service. You'll notice that we haven't started gathering at the church just yet. Don't worry, be patient. We're getting things ready and we're making the room ready and we're figuring out how many services we need to do. In the meantime, we're going to share our messages, continue sharing our messages with you on YouTube. And so we're excited that we can worship God with you. Now, today is a very special day. It is Father's Day. And so happy Father's Day to all the new fathers that are fathers this year, all the different types of fathers that we have in this world. You know what? Maybe there's a father, maybe your father isn't here with us. Maybe he has passed on. And well, we want to remember our fathers too. And you know what? It's all remembering. It's all about sharing memories, isn't it? Making memories. I hope you're making some good memories today to celebrate Dad. Well, listen to this. I'm going to get straight to the message. Is that okay? One night, a wife found her husband standing over their newborn baby's crib. Silently, she watched him. As he stood looking down at the sleeping infant, she saw on his face a mixture of emotions: disbelief, doubt, delight, amazement, enchantment, skepticism. He would stand back, shake his head, and say, "Amazing," while smiling from ear to ear. Touched by this unusual display and the deep emotions it aroused, her eyes glistened as she slipped her arms around him. "A penny for your thoughts," she whispered in his ear. "Isn't it amazing?" he replied. "When you take time and really look close, how can anyone make a crib like that for $45.99? Oh, here's another precious dad moment. As ham sandwiches go, it was perfection. A thick slab of ham, a fresh bun, crisp lettuce, and plenty of expensive light brown gourmet mustard. The corners of my jaw were aching in anticipation. Bill carried it to the picnic table in his backyard, picked it up with both hands, but as was stopped by his wife suddenly at his side. "Hold, Johnny," their 6-week-old son, "while I get my sandwich," she said. Bill had him balanced between his left elbow and shoulder and was reaching again for the ham sandwich when he noticed a streak of mustard on his fingers. Loving mustard, and yet he had no napkin, he just licked it off. It was not mustard, friends. No man ever put a baby down faster. It was the first and only time he had sprinted with his tongue protruding out, with a washcloth in each hand, doing a sort of routine shoe-signed guys do, only he did this with his tongue. Later his wife said to him, "Now you know why they call that mustard poupon." Well, dads, today this one's for you. Fathers hold a very special place in community, a much higher place than they are given credit for today. For instance, how many of you have seen a TV commercial that actually makes dads look intelligent lately? Most commercials cast fathers as a person who can't figure out how to take care of the kids alone, or how to run a laundry, or clean the toilets without specific instructions from mom. Actually, I prefer specific instructions, but you know what I mean. It is as if society seems to see fathers as expendable parts of the community, of the family unit. And I hope that's not the case in your home. And dads who are listening, and new dads that are taking notes, you do hold a very special place in society. It actually starts off in our homes. It's astonishing how in courtrooms, divorced dads hardly have a fighting chance of obtaining custody of their kids, or even being allowed to be a significant part of their kids' lives, much less the opportunity to be the spiritual leader of their households. Sadly, it's not just divorced men, but many men today also neglect to see the importance of their role as a father themselves. As a result, their kids are growing up in unbalanced and dysfunctional households. In fact, 39.6% of the children in North America are going to bed every night without their biological father in their home. Fathers need to be reinstated to the level of importance that God intended for them. In fact, there is very strong evidence which points to the fact that the reason our Western world view of morality and spiritual integrity is at such an all-time low is because of the declining value placed on the role of the father in today's society. We've heard the saying, happy wife, happy life. Well, when dad is undervalued, so is a right relationship with our Father in heaven. Today, my goal is not to remind our dads of their duties and responsibilities so much as to encourage and remind us all of their importance. The respect and dignity of the role of the father is important. Fathers play an extremely important and vital role in our families and in our nation today. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 18 to 20. Colossians chapter 3, verse 18 to 20. It says, wives, submit to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Notice how the Bible introduces this hierarchical model of authority in the family. So in terms of this authority, the father is deemed the head of the household. 1 Timothy chapter 3:12 tells us he is urged to manage his children and his household in a respectful manner. So the father is charged with the responsibility of looking after the best interests of his family. That can be financially, it can be spiritually, it can be socially. However, as you have already found out, or you are finding out, when a man becomes a father, he isn't given some sort of rule book on how to conduct himself. No one tells a man how to manage his household. It is something he picks up from a few very important sources. First source, from the way his own father treated him. Now he grew up as a child and interacted with his dad. The second source is from what he learns from his relationship with God and by the Word of God. I can remember a sense of strength and protection that my father exuded. He was always looking after his family. And while he never had the same tenderness that mom might have had, he showed his love equally as powerful to us kids. People so often have the perception that dads don't love their kids as much as mothers because they aren't as emotional or endearing. But fathers have the same capacity, if not more, to love just as much as any other spiritual being. It's just expressed in different ways. Instead of a tender hug, it was a hug of like a strong bear. But it always felt good to be loved by dad. Dads are just designed by God to express their love in different ways. They express their love when they guard their family and provide good things for their wife and kids. I remember the greatest moments as a kid and teenager was getting picked up by dad at school. He would take us to run some last-minute errands before we would go pick up Mom from work. And one of those errands was a quick burger at A&W. And we would dispose of the wrappers and napkins and paper cups and the trash can just outside our mom's workplace. And as long as we ate supper when we got home, Mom would never suspect a thing. I think she always knew, though. I also remember one of my first jobs as a grocery clerk. My dad would be there in the parking lot as it was coming to closing time. He would be out there collecting grocery carts, and I'd come out to find them stacked and in the cart corral collected, flyers disposed of, and him sitting in the car waiting. Every time. Oh, I was a very fortunate kid. I remember he would always let my friends come over. I even brought a little guy, my roommate from Bible college. He went out and bought these big cuts of steaks, and as my brother and I polished these steaks in minutes, my buddy was still chewing on his first couple bites. And he would ask, "Is your steak okay?" to my friend. And, "Yes, but I am full." My brother and I both would look at each other and, "Full? What are these words? What is this word, full?" We do not know that word around here. My dad would just laugh and smile and tell him, "Don't force yourself to keep up with these guys." And he is still a father figure in some ways to whomever walks through those doors. You know what? Maybe your dad doesn't give you good memories. And maybe you didn't have good memories growing up. You know what? God can put in your life someone who can be that father figure. In fact, God is the ultimate father figure, isn't he? Fathers are great. Fathers are meant to be great. And maybe you're a father and you haven't been so great. Today's a good day to change. Have a new leaf, have a new start. Give your kids a call. Give your wife a call. Start over again. Well, I talked about those statistics, didn't I? Almost 40% of kids grew up without a dad at home, and we know there has to be another source of example for the developing dad, and that's the example we have in Jesus Christ. The best dads take their example from Jesus and pass the legacy of the Lord on to their family. The legacy of Christ's love is the greatest gift a father can give. And to be like Jesus in the way we manage our household is one of the greatest expressions of love a dad can give to his family. When Peter asked the Lord how they were going to pay their taxes, Jesus told him to take a coin from the fish's mouth. This teaches his people that our Father God is the God of provision. When he fed the multitude with a few loaves of bread and a few fish, he provided the example of a father who provides all the needs of his family. And he commands dads today to do the same. In 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, it says, "If anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for his immediate family, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." Wow. In the same way, dads have the awesome responsibility of providing for their family. It really is our egos that are wrapped up in our employment. We're ashamed if we're not employed. The brunt of the responsibility to provide for the welfare of a family unit rests on the shoulders of the husband, of dad. If you are like me, you will know that dads are always striving to maintain a balance of providing for their family and spending quality time with their family. Scripture teaches us that there has to be a balance in our lives. Because men are hardwired with the desire to provide for their family and make a good home for their children, there's a constant struggle to maintain a balance between the giving of our time and the giving of our things. A man constantly has to look to God for direction and example on how to manage his household. God's example is that he always provides for his children. But he never replaces the value of spending quality time with his children by giving them things to keep them busy. So while the provision is there in abundance, our Father God always places the greater emphasis on the time that we spend together with him. Are you spending time with God, friends? In the same way, a father's duty to provide for his family shouldn't overshadow the importance of spending quality time with them either. A father also expresses his love through something we don't like to say a lot, discipline. When Jesus rebuked Peter, saying, "Satan, get thee behind me," he portrayed the power of love through the act of discipline, not wanting Peter to be lost in the old way of thinking. Discipline is difficult, and it is oftentimes received by our children as a bad thing, but it is a primary fruit of a fatherly love. Dad has to discipline if he loves his children. Proverbs 3 verses 11 and 12 says, "My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves, as a father the son he delights in." I remember my dad had told my younger brother and I to come straight home after school. It was wintertime and we would be making our way home. However, those snowbanks were so fun to climb up one driveway and to slide down into the other. We were having a blast. And little did we know, Dad knew we would cave into the temptation of dilly-dallying home. All I remember that day was that he put us both over his knee in front of all our friends, in front of all the neighbors, pulled down our snow pants, and we got a spanking. Well, friends, don't worry. We didn't have to go into therapy because of that. Dad knew that snowbank jumping it could be dangerous. Cars in and out of driveways, snow plows, who knows when they were coming by that we could get buried in. Dad knew that if we could get hurt, he knew it was dangerous for his children. So we had a lesson to be learned. And so a dad has to discipline because he wants the best for his children. The discipline of a father sets the whole course of his family's lives on fire. Can children raised in the discipline of a strong and loving father have greater discipline as adults? If that is attainable, then I also believe then that as disciplined adults, they can make greater contributions to society as well. Did you get that? I believe disciplined adults can make greater contributions to society as well. A young man was making poor grades in school, particularly in math. His parents tried various things, none of which seemed to produce the desired improvement. Finally, they decided to enroll him in a private school, and at the end of the first grading period, the young man came home and proudly presented his report card to his parents. They were shocked to find that all his grades had improved significantly. Most noticeably, he had received his first ever A in math. His parents were overjoyed and began to question him to determine what it was that finally produced the improvement they had sought. Was it the non-traditional teaching methods in the private school? No. Was it the smaller class sizes or more individual attention? No. Well, what was it then that caused such a big turnaround, they asked. Well, the son replied, when I walked into that school on the first day and the first thing I saw was that man nailed to that plus sign, I knew I'd better take math seriously here. Discipline is the act of a father urging his kids to live the right way. for the development and growth of his family. I remember the movie, Remember the Titans. The coach pushed these students to the brink of their abilities. Some accused him of trying to ruin them and break their spirits, but by pushing them, he made them stronger. It prepared them for a difficult season of football. And in the end, they went undefeated and won the championship because of their discipline. If he hadn't pushed them, they never would have pushed themselves. And in the same way, a family is made by a father's discipline. And so like a coach that pushes his players, the father disciplines and urges his children to make them stronger. Dads also express their love through protection. A dad places himself in the way of trouble to protect his family. Jesus applied the example of the greatest love possible when he laid down his life to save us, his people. In the same way, a father is charged with the duty of laying down his life, his desires, his personal interests for the sake of his family. I was adopted by the Moody family as a young boy, and I am so grateful for the love and support my mom and dad and my brother had given me time and time again. I remember my parents telling me about some of the obstacles that they had to overcome in family court just to adopt me. My birth mother was doing her best to heal and put together a home for my birth brother and I, but my connection was with this beautiful Moody family. This family, the Moody family, they put a covering over me. See, the judge's decision was not an easy one to make, and I couldn't imagine the weight of such a decision. All I know is my parents stood up and acknowledged that they would do everything they could to ensure that little Clinton had a roof over his head, clothes on his back, food in his belly, education, and every opportunity to become a young man. To the judge, I'd like to say the Moodys kept their word. To my birth mother and my birth brother, the Moodys took good care of me. I know it was difficult to let me go and to trust someone to raise me, but they really did a good job. Thank you for this life that I get to live, and someday we can share. To the Moodys, Mom, Dad, Mark, thanks for everything. I have lots more to say, but I gotta get this message done. Something that we can't find on Wikipedia about being a dad is this, friends. Dads are the first line of defense for their family, and are often the first area where Satan attacks. Because the enemy knows that if he can take the leader out, his subjects are soon to follow. Maybe you're not hearing me on this. Satan knows how to break apart families. He knows how to break apart nations, countries, kingdoms. If he can get between the father and his family, the devil wants to get between you and God. Don't let him. As a father of your household, be careful. Be careful where you are. Be careful who you let in. Don't let the sneaky devil try to break you apart. So we have to be on guard. We have to protect our homes and protect our family. And that leads us to the primary gift. The greatest expression of love from a dad is the legacy of salvation through Jesus Christ. It's true. When a parent dies, their children expect to receive an inheritance. Sometimes that inheritance involves riches, and sometimes it doesn't. But there is no greater inheritance than the legacy a father leaves concerning eternal salvation. Ephesians 6 verse 4 says, "Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord." A dad who loves his family will do his best to lead them in the way of the Lord. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 11 to 13 says, "As a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God, who calls you into his kingdom and glory." Mark 8 verse 36, "What good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul?" Dads are extremely important people in our lives. We're charged with the duties of protecting, providing, and interceding for our families' sakes. We have the power to shape our families and our communities by the ways we live every day. We are the first line of defense for our families and are commissioned by God to deliver the good news of the gospel message to our families. Not with just words, but in the way that we live every day. Not just by the way we worship and pray on Sundays, but by the way we worship and praise every day of our lives. I love family gatherings, and once we can gather again, we really miss that. But I remember Christmas dinners and birthdays and Thanksgiving. Wherever there's food, I remember those moments most. No. My dad would always say, "Grace, blessings for the food." And a lot of the people that surrounded our tables, they didn't have a relationship with God. They didn't know who Jesus is. But my dad would begin his prayer, and he would say, "Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for my family. Thank you for this time that we can spend together celebrating you. Thank you for the love that you have given to us by sending us Jesus, your Son, to die for us and provide a way for us to see you." And he would share the gospel message in his prayer, and everyone, we all got our heads down wondering how long this prayer is going to be. But to those who were sitting there, they heard the good news of Jesus in a short little prayer, a short little blessing over food. I hope we take every opportunity to share the love of God. Whether it's just a little grace, a little family prayer gathering, a little time together, fishing, out and about at sports, watching. Spend time with your family. Spend time with God. As I mentioned, nothing is more important than spending quality time with your family, making memories. Memories are something that you're going to cherish as a father, and it's something that your children will cherish no matter what season they are in. And just as many of you parents have already experienced, I'm learning all about this fathering thing too. Remember how I told you about making memories? That one day our little girl won't want to go to A&W with Dad after school. She'll have her own relationships, her own time and things to do. While I would want to spend those moments with her, I know it will be all right. Because she'll always have a home. She will always have a place in my heart. And that's the gospel message. That's the good news. That we as fathers get to be fathers, dads. Jesus is waiting for us to come home to him. God's heart can hold a lot of people. It's never overcrowded. We'll always be his kids. He truly is someone wonderful. Spend some time with God. Spend time with your family. My mom and dad and some close friends, I remember as a young child, they went to a concert. And I didn't understand the words to this song. Or I didn't understand the relationship of fathers and their children. But as this couple sang this song, I saw how it resonated in my parents' eyes, But now I understand the words as a father. I'm a dad. And I want to bless you with this song today.